The Korgalzhyn Nature Reserve is the largest reserve in Kazakhstan that was added to the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites. It lies 130 kilometers southwest of Astana and consists of spacious steppes and lakes. The Korgalzhyn Nature Reserve area has unique protected water and swamplands, which are home to the largest and northernmost population of pink flamingos. Over the past few years, the salty shallows of the Tengiz Lake had over 3,500 pink flamingos coming here. Also, here you can see the skilled fishers, the Dalmatian pelicans and cormorants, gracious gray and white herons, demoiselle cranes, and of course, swans. The area of the reserve, not including the protection zone, at this moment reaches around 260,000 hectares. Around 197,000 hectares of it are underwater. The north-south length of the protected area is 60 kilometers, and from west to east, 75 kilometers. The reserve is located at the border of the Akmola and Karaganda regions. It is located in the Korgalzhyn district of the Akmola region. Its existing protected area spreads across the Korgalzhyn and the Yegandakol districts of Akmola region and the Nura district on the territory of the State Land Fund of the Karaganda region. It is possible to reach the reserve only by car. The nearest and the only big city is the capital of the country, Astana, with its international airport located 170 kilometers northeast of the reserve. Astana is connected with the Korgalzhyn town by a 130-kilometer long paved road, and then a 40-kilometer long country road leads to the reserve. According to the law of the Republic of Kazakhstan, the Korgalzhyn State Natural Reserve is categorized as a highly protected natural area. The reserve has the status of a protected natural reserve and is intended for the protection and study of natural conditions and processes, typical and unique environmental systems, biodiversity, and the genetic fund of plants and animals. It is of special importance for the protection of nature, development of science, and environmental diversity. Historical background. In March of 1957, the Tengiz-Korgalzhyn lakes were proclaimed as game sanctuaries, and already on May 19th of 1958, the decree of the Council of Ministers of Kazakh SSR established the Korgalzhyn Virgin Reserve with 15,000 hectares of zonal steppes on the right side of the Kon River and the south banks of the Korgalzhyn Lake. 3 years later, it was abolished, and for the next few years, it underwent several reorganizational processes. The lakes were given a controversial status of either game reserves or forest game sanctuaries. The new classifications allowed the active use of natural resources as well as conduct of big hunts without following the hunting regulations and without consideration for the impact that they would have on the hunting lands. The reserve was re-established on April 18th of 1968 by the Decree 214 of the Council of Ministers of Kazakh SSR. The reserve became a lake reserve and is known as a wildfowl reserve. The consequences of anthropogenic activity were eliminated in quite a short period of time. Settlements and cattle farms were moved outside the sanctuary borders, the cane fiber factory was shut down, and industrial fishing was stopped. A 2-kilometer wide protection area around the reserve was created in order to eliminate the anthropogenic impact on it. Over a period of 38 years, the reserve expanded its territory 4 times. Its borders changed during this land expansion. In general, the actions were aimed to add efficiency to the control over complying with the reserve rules and to eliminate conflicts occurring between the reserve and collective farms. In 2004, the Korgalzhyn State Natural Reserve contained 258,963 hectares of lands, including 197,919 hectares of water areas. The climate of the reserve is extremely continental, which is explained by its inland location and a long distance from the softening effects of the oceans and seas. Throughout the year, the region has mostly continental polar air. The hot and dry summer is replaced by cold winter with a small volume of snow precipitation. The reserve is located in the western part of the closed drainage area of the Tinggiz Lake. This area is part of a Central Asian inner drainage area with a rare network of rivers. The reserve area has the largest lake system in central Kazakhstan, consisting of 2 lakes, the blind drainage lake Tinggiz and the open lake Korgalzhyn. Several smaller lakes are located around it. The river Nura flows into the reserve lake from the south to the north. Several rivers flow towards the lakes from the south. However, only the Kulanot-Pes River reaches the reserve lands with its large affluent Kon River. The rest are lost in the blind drainage lowlands. More than 20 temporary water flows named Karasu bring water to the lake system from the west, north, and east. The reservoir's vegetation flora is quite diverse, despite the relative homogeneity of its surface, which to a great extent affects the flora and the types of plants that grow on it. To this day, the higher plants have been quite extensively studied, but the lower plants much less. 600 types of plant species have been identified. The protected area has very few endemic plants. 5 types that are endemic to Kazakhstan have been registered: Potamogeton macrocarpus, Astragalus unigigus, Zygophyllum substrigigum, Laplabrichocentroids, Ceratula dissecta, and Astragalus kazakhstanicus. The Kazakhstan Red Book of Endangered Species includes 7 types: Adonis volgensis, Tulipa schenki and Tulipa patens, Glycyrrhiza uralensis, Zygophyllum substrigigum, Ixeolirion tataricum, and Allium flavescens. The reserve's world of invertebrates is almost unstudied, therefore it is almost impossible to fully assess its diversity. Fish can only be found in the Korgalzhyn Lake. The fish fauna consists of 14 types. They include 11 native and 3 naturalized kinds. Reptiles are not widely spread. They are represented by 2 types and both can be found within the area. In terms of birds, the Korgalzhyn Reserve area is quite interesting. There are 328 kinds of birds, which make up over 65% of the total bird fauna of Kazakhstan. 39 of them are added to Kazakhstan's list of endangered species, and 24 kinds to the IUNC Red Book. The nesting birds fauna consists of 126 kinds and is similar to the fauna of the Central Asian lake steppes. The breeding kinds include 17 rare and globally endangered species, as well as the endemic and relics of the bird fauna. 219 types of birds stop by here during the migration period, with 14 that are included into the Red Book. The following groups of birds are represented to the fullest extent: grebes, copepods, herons, anatine, falconiformes, gruiformes, charadriiformes, and quite a large number of passeriformes. The water bodies of the Korgalzhyn Reserve are rich in food and attract aquatic, swampland, and near-water birds. 121 of the 130 kinds recorded in Kazakhstan can be spotted here. During the summer feather shedding and autumn migration periods, large numbers of birds stop by the spacious water areas. The islands of the Tengiz Lake have the world's largest and northernmost nesting population of the common flamingo, a relict species that is added to the Red Book of Kazakhstan. At the same time, around 14,000 flamingo couples nest here, with the total number reaching 60,000 species. Sea relict species nest nearby them: the endangered great black-headed gull, slender-billed gull, Caspian tern, and the Kentish plover. The isolated cane vegetation areas of the Korgalzhyn Lake have Dalmatian pelicans nesting. According to the records, this area has up to 10% of the global population of Dalmatian pelicans and 10 to 20% of the global population of stiff-tails. Both kinds are included into the Red Book of Endangered Species of Kazakhstan, the IUNC Red Book, and are protected by the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. Several more globally endangered species that are found in this area are also under protection of this convention. More than 100 species of red-breasted goose fly by during migration. Flocks of small curlew and white swans at times also stop by here. The bird fauna of the reserve is attractive for different types of tourists. Regular tourists usually pay attention to large birds: flamingos, pelicans, swans, herons, gulls, cranes, daytime carnivorous birds, as well as large number of aquatic birds and curlews on the water bodies. Bird watchers are very interested in rare kinds of birds, especially bustard, little bastard, endemic larks, as well as small passeriformes. 41 types of mammals inhabit this area, which makes up around 1/2 of the totally unique fauna of Kazakh chemical lands and includes 6 kinds that are added to the IUNC Red Book. 55% of the core of the fauna is made up of rodents. The large number of small mammals attracts predators such as wolves, foxes, badgers, ermines, and weasels. Spacious cane thickets provide habitat for the wild boar. For many years, its population in the reserve has been quite stable, counting 180 to 200 species. The area is not well known, which is why tourism here is a relatively new and not common phenomenon. Nevertheless, many people come here from all over the world to watch birds, and the relative lack of popularity of this place has helped the area to avoid environmental pollution, which can unfortunately be seen in other places.